Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to HMP. Hope you're ready for murder on the Space Express. My name is Adam Portress, and like Wilford Brimley, I've driven at least 6 miles for a bowl of chili, and I'm joined by a man who, if he concentrates hard enough, can make your head explode. Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
Okay.
And his favorite flavor of Quaker Instant Oats is cinnamon and sugar, minus the cinnamon and the oats. Okay, look, he just wants sugar. Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and like Bruce Campbell said, give me some sugar, baby.
Delicious.
You're not careful, they're going to take your foot.
Well, we hope you have your adult diabetes in order and under control here, because today we're talking about murder in space. As Sweet Seanzy Loves Space continues on here. Sean, what brought us to murder in space?
It is on the list of movies where I've never seen anyone doing a breakdown on, like a bad movie podcast or any of that stuff. And after watching the movie this week, I can see why.
What?
Here, I'm going to go ahead and just throw a little something up on Jump Street, something that maybe we can discuss. It's not so much a bad movie as a movie that totally does not set expectations properly with its title.
Yes, agreed. Agreed.
A lot of things. Just so much stuff to get into. But before we do that, we do want to say a giant thank you to the people that support us over to patreon.com/HMP. Those awesome people get pre-show, they get post-show, they get Dinger Zone, and of course, they get to vote on what we watch every month. And let me tell you, the vote's up. We're starting. We're getting in there. Let's run it down and see what we've got right now. Here's how the voting is shaking out. We literally just opened it up here. But still coming in at 0% right now. We have Monster Mashup and Slash and Mataz coming in just above them with 7%. We have Boogity Babies. Those are going to be your kitty knockoffs. What am I talking about? What's the word I'm looking for?
Family-friendly Halloween movies.
There you go.
Mr. Boogity-like.
Yeah, your Mr. Boogity-esque sort of things. Tied with 14% are the Ghosts of Halloween's Past and the Occult. But strap your booties on right now. At least as the votes stand, we have 64% with Once Bitten, Twice Shy. That's our werewolves. So we may be doing werewolves next month, but we do that based upon the votes that you give. You give those by going over to patreon.com/HMP. Sign up at any price point. Because whatever you feel this show is worth, just put that in money form, send it our way, get stuff back in return. The more you can do, the better. If it's only $1, that's great. If it's all the way on up to whatever, we really appreciate that. And we love all of you guys for keeping this show on the air and going all the time. And if you can't do that, at least support us over at the iTunes. Drop us a 5-star review, aka Humdinger.
Humdinger.
Been a while. We might need to get another 5-star review in there. So check it all out. All right, let's
time for somebody else to steal a Nana's phone.
Yeah, steal your Nana's phone and write some stuff in there. Who's to say what you want to, make it fun. Make it fun and interesting. Write us a little story. Let's get into here's the IMDb plot line for Murder in Space. As we know, IMDb 100% correct in everything they say and or do. Get this. Set in the not-too-distant future. Really, IMDb? That's what we're going to do? Set in the not-too-distant future, the crew of an international space station are set to return triumphantly to Earth until someone starts killing the other crew members. This is written by Wesley Ferguson. Wesley has only done this. That is it. Didn't do anything else. Beginning, middle, and end of his career is Murder in Space. Directed by Stephen Hillard Stern, who we would probably most likely know from Crow, Stairway to Heaven, the Canadian Crow series that we covered once upon a way back when.
Yeah, when the guy directed this movie, he made 2 films that day, his first and his last. That's a line I stole from Ginger Dead Man 2, Passion of the Crust.
Which was a sequel, which is amazing. So, that in and of itself is quite a big thing. All right, well, let me sell everybody on this probably made-for-TV whodunit space romp because this sucker's got everything. It's a Star Wars ripoff by way of Agatha Christie, starring Sam Fisher and the Quaker Oats guy. We got exposition radio. Take a drink every time you hear the word Conastasia or Conastasia. I don't know how the hell they're doing it, but whatever. We got Walkin' Brimley, Dollar Store Hugh Grant yelling at people to speak in English as it should be, hanging crap from the ceilings like a bat cave, but in space. It happens in space, but stays in. What happens in space stays in space, except for space herpes that you can't get rid of. We got hair combing in the shower, who sounds like a spaceship bicycle. Brimley plays Newhart, fuzzy hats and coats, scarf talk, autopsy in space, party at Bruce Wayne's house, Plan 9 from outer space, spacesuits. It's not a tumor, limo top hat driver, crimped hair, swooping collars, up your nose with a rubber hose, trip to Moscow, gay stuff, alarms, jumping through circular corridors, circle wipes, insulin talk, seriously, backtracking flashbacks to keep you up to date with the things that you missed when you were bored. This movie thinks of you and has everything.
That's great, Adam. That's great.
So do you have like some production notes on this one?
Do I?
Yeah, because I found something in my research after I finished watching it today that kind of surprised me, but you may already know.
No. Please.
Well, this was aired in 2 parts. So the final 15 minutes was aired as a separate, like the whole thing was supposed to set up a Who Shot JR scenario.
Mm-hmm.
People would enter a contest trying to guess who the murderer was. And then they showed the final 15 minutes like a month later and picked 2 winners or something like that.
Wow.
And they got cash prizes. Now,
wow.
could you imagine caring enough to, I mean, I guess if you're hard up for money, money's money. I'm not going to judge you for that, but I couldn't imagine waiting around a month to see who the murderer was and tuning back in for 15 minutes of this.
No, not only that, but there's nothing to recommend this. Like, there's nothing where you're
Wilford Brimley was a big star, I guess. Michael Ironsides wasn't yet, was he?
Listen, Bruce, it's 1985. You could either watch this or Back to the Future. Which are you going to choose? I know where I'm going.
This don't even beat like Cocoon. Like other Wilford Brimley movies, much better than this one.
Oh yeah, this is. I mean, like Wilford Brimley's in The Thing, for heaven's sake.
Well, I kind of feel like they watched The Thing and said we need something like The Thing that we can show on TV. And you really don't need all the gore to make it work. It's the mystery. So we'll make it a big mystery. Who is the killer in space? But it sucks.
But we sell
Every
it with
time I see
Wilford Brimley.
Man, I always think of his best line read ever when he's in John Carpenter's The Thing. And they have him out in that shed, and he goes, "I want to come inside now." So good.
He had some great lines in this that were just throwaways that I feel like had to be improvised the way they were thrown in.
It sure feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think the phone conversation, I really do think he's Newharting it up, and like they did all the other line in post to try to match it up as best they could to like, well, we'll try to have, ping pong off from saying something.
I can't remember what it was he said, but then at the end, the other actor said something. He goes, "That'll last you about 6 seconds," and I know it seems so weird and off the wall. I felt like there's no way that was written into the script.
No, they let him go, and like he has at least 2, maybe 3 telephone conversations where it's just Will, you're going to need to just kind of vamp for us for a bit.
But yeah. I really feel like somebody pitched this as a network made for TV, The Thing, where people get to guess who the murderer is.
I think you're right. I totally
maybe
think you're right.
Maybe they thought a little bit of like Agatha Christie in space, but if you're going to do Agatha Christie in space, the detective also must be in space. You can't have someone on Earth who, by the way, we never even got to meet that grandbaby. You can't tell me he's going to be a grandfather and not have a scene where he's holding a newborn baby at the end.
One of many things about this movie that is very disappointing.
That was the only negative I had. But anyway, I don't want to step
there's
on
only
your
one
toes.
Con? You made a pros and cons file.
No chowder buckets. We have a shower.
I don't want to step
scene,
on your toes, so I'll let you start rolling into this whenever you're ready, Sean. But I was very, very impressed with the early parts of this film, and then let's just say I became a little bit more engaged with my phone, and then I had to look up who the murderer was again.
Here's the big thing is like, at least, like I said, the end of it at least wraps things up to where they're like, you flash back, and again, they are so damn cheap with this movie that they are literally showing you scenes that you've seen before, not from new angles. Literally the same edited scene you have seen previously. They throw it back up there, and so you can go, oh, right.
You know, sometimes you just get these whiffs of nostalgia that make you happy no matter what's going on around you. Watching this made me think of my old junior high art room being dressed up with cardboard by Cecil Riley, who had a key to the school so we could go sneak and make fan films of Star Trek after hours. Our sets looked a lot like these.
It's like there is a level of it, though, that I kind of like. It's cheesy and corny, and it's like, because it's not quite all there, but it's not so trash that it's disgusting that you're just like, oh, you're not even trying. It's like they are kind of trying. They are really putting some effort.
A lot of made for TV stuff for me, particularly from that late 70s, early 80s era. Actually, I'd say made for TV stuff up until The Sopranos and the cable revolution. Always felt to me a little bit like it either has too much or not enough money, but the amount it has is definitely not the right amount. That's how made for TV stuff always feels to me.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like it almost looks like a movie, but like as you're watching it, you're like, nah, this is TV. This is TV, right? Because it's like it's shot and it's moving in just such a way that it's like it ain't quite a feature.
And it's not as charming as that 60s low budget sci-fi stuff was, but it's also not as cool or creative as obviously something like Star Wars.
You're saying this isn't as good as Star Wars? I mean, I know it's not better than Star Wars, but you're saying it's not even as good as? Okay.
I mean, it's on par with the Star Wars entry, which also had Wilford Brimley in it, that Caravan of Courage.
It's better than that. It is better than... I can't remember which one he's in. Is he in Caravan of Courage, or is he in
just Ewoks the movie or whatever?
Ewok, like the Battle for Endor, I think.
I don't know which one he's in, but the one he's in, definitely not a top 10.
I was contractually obligated to do both.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Both of them inferior to the Thing, if you ask me.
Just by a touch. But that's only because of the score.
So let's start. So we start the movie with a slow pan of a model of a spaceship as the credits roll, and immediately I know we're in trouble because this movie was produced by CTV, which means for the next hour and 27 minutes, we're going to be trapped watching a Canadian sci-fi made-for-TV movie in the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
Are there commercial breaks in this movie? You know it. We get a 2-minute sequence of character introductions explaining their job title and country of origin, and none of this matters because you will never remember their job title or their name, and maybe you'll remember the country of origin because we got some Lucky from Lucky Charms level accent work on this picture.
It's accents, and maybe you'll see like a thing on their arm and you'll go like, oh, you're from the United States, as your flag patch shows us, kind of thing.
Right.
I'll say in their defense, I could absolutely tell the difference between the Americans and the Canadian. Like, they nailed that difference.
That they did. But as these character intros continue, I start to get nervous because missing from these intros is the reason why we're all here. No Wilford Brimley.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
And I'm about to be totally bummed out when we cut to a man walking down a hallway wearing what I would describe as a Russian Cossack hat. I don't know what it's really called.
I call it the world's biggest hat. That's all I call it.
And marries handsome husband Joseph. It's Brimley in full glory. Walrus mustache, the thickest eyeglasses you could buy at the time. And without speaking, you can tell he's already surly. He's at a facility somewhere on Earth, so unfortunately, he's not on that ship. Now, guys, I did the math. How old do you think Wilford Brimley is during the making of this movie?
All right,
33.
I'm going to tell you this. If I'm looking at the man,
30s, I really do.
I'm looking at the man. If I was to just like, because I know he looks older than he is, but because he always has been, and that's just kind of how it also goes with a lot of older actors, the age and stuff. If I was to venture a guess, though, if I had zero knowledge of that, I looked at this man, I would say bare minimum he is 65 years old.
He is 51 during the making of this movie.
Whew. Yeah, he looks bad.
For reference, like a solid 9 years younger than Tom Cruise is currently.
He is Tom Cruise. As we are recording this, I looked that up. As we are recording this, Tom Cruise is currently 61 years old.
It's so 10 years older
My
than Wilford Brimley.
word.
And he still can't grow a mustache this good.
Insane.
And you see how good Brimley's running in this flick.
Now, am I stepping on your toes? I want to talk about this track.
No, please.
The whole reason Wilford Brimley, like, I'm thinking there's some kind of important meeting. Then he comes in and he's changing clothes and he's walking with this weird determination. And we know we got something going on up in space. And then next thing you know, he's wearing, like, he loves the state of Colorado. Like, it's not the colors of any university I'm aware of in Colorado.
Yeah, it just says the state of Colorado.
And it's blue and white, I think.
Yeah.
And he goes and he's walking on the track. And they send the one man in Hollywood in worse shape than Wilford Brimley running at full speed to retrieve him. And I love this whole.
It looks like Ned Beatty. It's not, but it looks like him.
When they leave, you can tell neither one of them had it in them left to run. So you can tell they've sped up the film and it looks like they're shuffling away at a like Three Stooges like pace.
Yes. So
that pulled me in. When Wilford Brimley comes in for no reason, he's going to the track. This weirdo runs in as fast as he can and says, "You got to leave the track." And then they shuffle off with sped up walking. I'm like, okay, this is going to be golden. I'm in 100%. Unfortunately, they got a little too, but not quite enough competent after that.
I think all those tracks were just so new and stuff, and it looked cool, and they were like, we're going to
futuristic at the time.
Yeah,
it's an indoor track.
Exactly. We're going to throw this in here. We got access to this, and nobody's around. It's going to make it look all neat and futuristic.
It's called production value.
Yeah, trust me, there was a lot of that free stuff around here. You could look and see when it was there. You're like, oh, you showed up here for production value.
There's nothing like a movie that was filmed in 84?
85.
There's nothing like a movie that was filmed in 1985, set in space, supposed to be in the near future, but looked like 1970s Columbus, Ohio, when they did all the exterior shots. I did not expect Murder in Space to mostly be people talking in Cincinnati.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you wouldn't want your space movie to have any space in it now, would you?
So Brimley is listening to the radio, and we learn that a spaceship known as the Conestoga is headed home after a successful mission to Mars, but it's missing. And you'll find out in about 30 seconds that this particular plot point doesn't matter. And Brimley is walking around in hallways forever till he hits a track, like Bruce said, when a fatter, older guy than Brimley runs up to him and says, "We found them, Doctor. We've got them." To which Brimley says, in a way nicer timbre than I'm used to with Brimley, he says, "Let's go." And they
let's go. It really is. Let's go.
Let's go.
Like that.
We then cut to the interior of the Conestoga. And for a movie with the budget of a junior high school Thanksgiving musical, it looks pretty good. The ship looks pretty good. Lights are blooping and bleeping, and there's molded plastic that looks like it was specifically made for the set instead of using old McDonald's styrofoam Big Mac boxes.
Or just, like, honestly, because at this point, like, I know what when I worked at news stations, they were, kind of still relics, a lot of the old stuff that was still around there. So I know what a lot of 70s, equipment looks like. And that's what they did for a lot of these things, was just threw like 70s TV equipment into all of these, stuff.
There were always like a whole, like a big tray of sliders
and knobs and all the kind of blinkies and stuff like that. So they put all that in there, but like, you don't see a ton of that. There are some things in there that they specifically or just notched out to look their own kind of stuff, and it was kind of impressive for the tiny production that it clearly is.
And also, it's so surprising how much value you get out of that the Star Trek doors opening noise.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's so satisfying, and they have that in this movie where every time a door opens or closes, it goes. Shh. I don't know why it works so well, but
those little things, and if you just sound design stuff of having little engine rumblings and stuff in the background, things that you don't notice, but if they were gone, you'd be like, why is this wrong? But we spend so much time on Earth here, so they don't have to worry about that.
So. While on the Conestoga, we see a young yet still grizzled-looking Michael Ironside. He's the captain of this boat, and he runs into a Russian cosmonaut on the ship who looks and sounds exactly like Belky Bartakamus for Perfect Strangers, for those of you who are 40 years and older. He says to Michael Ironside, he says the line, "I am a plain man, so I will speak plainly. We do not recognize your authority on this ship. Don't be ridiculous." And Michael Ironside says back, and I'm paraphrasing here, "I'm Michael Ironside, and I'll send us both straight to hell and damn us for eternity if you talk to me like that again." And this movie is awful, but Michael Ironside, he is great in this movie.
Yes, he is.
He really is. You can feel the
grace.
tension when he's in the room, and in like you can already feel the mood in the ship due to Michael Ironside's acting, you know?
He always is, whether it's this film or whatever, he always seems like he's ready to punch somebody.
Yes.
So, theoretical question for you, Adam.
Mhm.
It's 1985. You're in the old Cocainatorium Disco Club in Los Angeles. I don't know, what do they call them in 85? Well, anyway,
Cocaine Emporium.
who's going home with more ladies, Wilford Brimley or Michael Ironsides?
Well,
Ironside.
Ironside, are you kidding me? At least he's got.
I think Brimley's a bigger star. We're talking
but
Hollywood,
sometimes
LA
your star
girls.
power doesn't matter when you look like Roy Orbison.
Yeah, Roy Orbison was a homely cat. Like, the songs were great, but like nobody wanted to look at him.
I would say your looks matter more in Atlanta maybe than they do in LA. I think you got the people who think Wilford Brimley's going to get me one of those sweet sequels to Cocoon someday. What's Michael Ironside's got?
Well,
I don't
I
like
think
Blue
we-
Thunder.
I just want to ask him what Jessica Tandy's like. Ooh.
I think that we can see Bruce's plan B if his wife ever decides to leave him.
Move to LA and become Wilford Brimley the third.
So we cut back to Mission Control, and Wilford Brimley is speaking to Michael Ironside on a tube TV that looks suspiciously like the 13-inch color TV I had in my room as a teenager. And Martin Balsam shows up as a Russian KGB agent, and some politics start getting thrown around. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but it turns out that America and the USSR don't get along too good.
Huh.
Brimley gets on a phone call to the vice president of the United States, and Brimley gives him the 411 and that something might be happening up on the ship with the Russians, to which the vice president says the line, "Screw them." Did I say that? We cut back to the Conestoga, where the female Italian scientist on board is looking at rock samples through a microscope. A guy with a Canadian accent so thick he can practically smell the maple syrup every time he speaks goes in for a neck smooch, but she ain't having none of it. And you can tell the way that they're playing off of each other that they've joined the 235 million miles high club. But it turns out Hoser is married back on Earth, and she thinks that they need to slow down before they get back home. They start making with the smacky face when this German guy who looks like Judge Reinhold's more waspy brother enters the room, and they immediately stop kissing. And you can tell that Hoser and German Judge Reinhold don't get along. But German Judge Reinhold has some news. The Conestoga is back on course, and in a few days, they'll never have to see each other again. And it's literally at this point that I realize we're basically watching an episode of Murder, She Wrote in space.
Yeah. only man, what was that? What was the character's name?
Jessica Fletcher.
Yes, Jessica Fletcher. Only Jessica Fletcher's on Earth and the Murders in Space. It'd be like Murder, She Wrote if she solved all her murders from a condo in San Francisco via telephone.
Yes.
Like, nobody wanted to watch that.
Yeah, she's not in Cabot's Cove. She's out in San Diego somewhere.
Then they've got this issue like the vice president, and they've got this international intrigue going on. And that's when a thought really hit me. Like, I love a lot of genre movies, and I personally prefer, I won't say I prefer, but I really can admire seeing the struggle somebody can go through with a low budget genre movie. But one genre that just never, ever could I imagine working well with low budgets is international political thriller.
Well, definitely not. I mean, Mission Control, when you see the exterior shot of it, it's clearly like, some treatment plant in in Canada somewhere where
because
they just slap a sign in the front that says Mission Control.
I could go for a low budget space noir murder mystery. I could do that. I could go for a low budget on Earth noir murder mystery. I could go for a low budget just space opera type thing. I could go for all kinds of campy space stuff, all kinds of campy murder stuff. But then when it starts to feel like they're trying to do, other than Batman 66 with their hilarious UN scene and the powderized people, other than that, I've never seen international intrigue work well with camp for me.
Yeah, agreed. So we cut to Michael Ironside walking into the quarters of a naked Russian lady who just got out of the shower and doesn't bother putting on a robe when he enters. And she says things to him like, "You didn't have a problem with my naked body before." And he says, "That was before I learned you were married." And we learn that not only is this naked Russian lady doing squat thrusts in the cucumber patch with Michael Ironside, but she's married to a big muckety muck in the Soviet government. Michael Ironside asks her to help him with Belky Bartakamus, and she says, "Not if you was the last immigrant grocer on Earth, honey." And Michael Ironside takes off. We learn the next morning that someone has died on the Conestoga, and it's the naked Russian lady.
Bum, bum, bum.
They hook her up. They hook her up to some monitors. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bruce.
And boy, they have the most boring breakdown. Like, talk about the most boring episode of CSI ever. I'm sure you're going to get into it, but let's go into their analysis of the cause of death.
So they hook her up to some monitors because the ship can't land until they find out why she died. But I think I might have a pretty good guess, though, based on the name of the movie, how she died. Just then,
Tickle fight.
Older guy. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Adam.
Tickle fight. That's how she died.
Just then, an older guy and an English lady, both people we've never seen before, are running tests. And we learn this British lady took a medical class from the older guy, and he told her a long time ago she would never make a good doctor. Now, you'd think that they would have had this conversation at any point during this 6 months long mission they've been on, but no, they had it just then, just now. And if I haven't pointed it out yet, there's 9 people on this spaceship, and one of them is now dead. Wilford Brimley gets the results from, as they call it in this movie, the space autopsy. And it turns out this naked Russian lady was murdered. And she was 2 months pregnant.
That was the weirdest twist to this whole thing. You're like, what?
Now, here's the thing, though. This is science fiction. She's murdered in space. You should have a little bit of fun. If you're going to have a space murder, let's make it a space murder. But their medical examiner's final cause of death is it appears someone may have held something similar to a pillow over her face.
Something,
that's it. Like
something that's animal based.
Pretty spacey to me.
Because they keep saying that. They keep going, it's something animal based.
They're like, okay, how can we murder someone and talk about it on network on Saturday morning TV? We're only going to show this in 2-minute segments between episodes of the Smurfs. So we got to find the least interesting way to kill someone. I also love it, man. I don't want to step over it, but this guy has the weirdest pickup line we're going to get to eventually.
Well, hopefully. We'll see. So
if not, I'll throw it in there.
Wilford Brimley says, 2 months pregnant on a 5-month mission. Yikes. He talks to the vice president.
That was another one that was just so great where they were just like, ooh. Nothing. Like, you can't talk your way out of that one, though. It's like, oh, yeah, by the way, I came back from space pregnant for 3 months. And you were gone how long? What the hell? All right.
Red Fox had a good story about that. He spent 2 years fighting abroad in World War II and came home, and his wife had had a 1-month-old baby while he was gone.
So Brimley talks to the vice president, and the vice president's all like, politics, politics, politics. We cut back to the Conestoga, and we find out that the older guy has a tumor in his head. The Russian lady was drugged and asphyxiated, and that the German Judge Reinhold that Hoser hates keeps making moves on his lady. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the Soviets and the Americans decide they're going to keep the murder quiet for now. And I swear to God, what I am about to say next is true. Wilford Brimley decides he's going to have to leave Mission Control for a bit because he wants to eat a bowl of chili.
The worst looking
Wilford
bowl of
Brimley.
chili ever.
It's like Hormel straight from the can without even eating it up.
It looks awful. It really does look awful. So Brimley sits down with the CIA guy, and Brimley says that they need to find the murderer before the spaceship comes back to Earth, which makes a lot of sense. And Michael Ironside rounds up the crew, and he tells them that the naked Russian lady was murdered, and it had to be someone on the spaceship.
Oh man, I hate to be hung up on the chili. I know I bear trap on stuff, but like if I knew you were the guy who wrote this movie, I would not trust you to like watch my pets, watch my kids, house sit for me, because in his mind, wanting a bowl of chili is enough to leave Mission Control. Imagine the crap he'd leave your house or your kids alone for.
You know, the other thing too that I never really got to is that Wilford Brimley is constantly busy. Like he gets like, while all of this is happening, he's also getting 15 different phone calls. Like his daughter has gone into labor at the hospital. Like, and there's like always some, like he's always talking to his assistants either on the phone or they come into the room. He's always like got somebody on hold while he's talking to someone else.
There's
like,
one assistant. There's one assistant that says she still can't get his wife on the phone, and he says, keep trying. And I know that 1985 technology, keep trying, means she's sitting there dialing on a rotary phone nonstop and getting a busy signal. Oh, man, what a horrible time that would be to live.
No kidding. So people on the ship start talking to each other, and Belky Bartakamus tells Michael Ironside that he knew that the naked Russian lady, the dead naked Russian lady, was pregnant, and when they got back to Earth, he was going to help her get a schmishmortion. The German Judge Reinhold and the American guy, who we've barely seen so far, we find out they are in a gay relationship. And the American guy is nervous they'll be found out. And it being 1985, I'm sure this is the only plot line to this movie that people were talking about at the time. But to my eyes today, it doesn't even move the needle.
What, you're talking about the Smithsmortion?
No, the gay the gay astronaut.
Because it's like what's kind of funny too is talk about we predicted the future wrong when the Russian guy goes, I know it's so easy to get a Smithsmortion in America, but it's very different in Russia. I somehow think that now maybe the tables have turned, or at least it's equally difficult in both places.
Probably. You know, I'm remembering now that in the 80s, my dad thought that Billy Crystal was gay because of his role on that TV show. Soap.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think so. I don't think he's gay. He's like, no, he's gay. Yeah, Billy Crystal's gay.
You know what he really is just telling you? Billy Crystal, amazing actor. That's what your dad really just said.
Oh man, I remember when my grandpa over on my mom's side, he said, I think that John Ritter's gay. I said, no, he's just acting. He goes, that's right. He just pretends to be gay so that Mr. Roper will let him stay there.
Yeah.
And that was the end of the conversation.
Well, at least he was correct at that point.
There was like no separation though between character and actor. He's like, oh, that's right. He just said he was gay so Mr. Roper would let him stay there.
That's who he is for real.
Soap is also one of those shows that has the that crazy thing where the spinoff is far more successful than the show.
Oh, Benson
show.
Yeah.
You know, because I watched Benson. I never watched Soap ever.
Sometimes I get some of the Norman Lear properties out of order, but like I thought maybe Maude came first, even though it's one of the lesser well-remembered one.
No, that was a spinoff of Archie.
And then there's Maude. Come on now.
Family, then.
Yeah.
And then there's Maude. All right, let's move on.
Yes.
No hot and Maude talk. All right, I guess we'll keep going back to.
So, gay German Judge Reinhold says, I'll keep us a secret by any means necessary. And the camera slowly zooms in because clearly this German guy is evil.
Well,
German.
He is German.
The astronauts have to do a press conference, or I'm sorry, a press interview to keep the public from flipping out since they have no idea that the naked Russian lady was murdered. And so everyone back on Earth thinks that there could be some sort of weird full-blown Mars AIDS or maybe radiation on the planet that's killing the astronauts. And as the gay American guy is talking to his wife on the press junket, awkward, and a hilarious bit of acting, Hoser comes out of nowhere during the middle of the interview. His clothes are all askew, and he collapses in front of the cameras that have been set up for the press junket. This is maybe the best bit of acting in this movie. It's so hammy. It's so ridiculous.
I kind of like the wife later on when she has to do her press junket. Her acting is impeccable, too.
We find out Hoser was poisoned. Someone put cyanide in his insulin. And Wilford Brimley, no doubt, shuddered when he first read that line in the script.
Sweet Lord, we're all capable of death. Stand back. It could happen to any of us, especially me.
It's kind of like, yeah. I would imagine if you're in space on a mission that would have to have some variability in how long you were out there, I think there'd be a lot of concerns, and I think it's awesome that it's a progressive government that will send an insulin-dependent diabetic into space for years. But
that's pretty crazy because, like, when you think about all the astronauts who got grounded because, like, they had a stomach flu a week ago.
Yes, I know.
This guy's got diabetes, and they're like, let's just see what happens.
I think keeping an eye on your insulin supply would be like number one on your priority.
Yeah,
list. What do I know?
What
do I know? I'm just a mere earthling. Oh, and also the German guy being evil. Something else you got to remember for some of the younger folks that might be listening is like there were two Germanys in 1985. So a significant part of Germany was behind the Iron Curtain. So when they say East Germany, hear the accent. For a good many people in the Cold War, your mind is going to go to East Germany and Russian spy.
Right.
And it's not an actual Iron Curtain like that's hiding the sun from your bedroom or anything like that. It's not literal.
Yeah, it was actually made out of aluminum. We just thought it was iron.
Yeah. Cost savings.
So when the Canadian guy dies, it's a sad moment because we'll no longer get to hear Hoser's sweet Canadian lilt, who was probably going to be murdered by his wife the second he got back to Earth anyway for catting around.
Yeah.
Everyone starts flipping out because now there's two dead astronauts. And in another scene between Brimley and Ironside, we learned that not only does Ironside know that the other American guy was gay, but he even figured out that he and the gay German Judge Reinhold were cave diving with Uncle Stinky together.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Later that day, the CIA guy walks into Brimley's office with a secret KGB file on the dead naked Russian lady. Turns out the Soviets knew that Michael Ironside and the dead naked Russian lady had a past. Brimley figures out that Ironside is the guy who got her pregnant, and the Soviets have probably figured that out too. Brimley wants some answers, and he unholsters his pager to contact Ironside. And in the best transition of the movie, we cut from Brimley's pager to Ironside's pager because the director of this movie sort of kind of knows what he's doing. Good bit of storytelling.
Actually, he's got a thing for pagers the way Tarantino is with feet.
Maybe he's got a pager fetish.
I like me some pages, boy.
That's a real narrow section on eHarmony right there.
We cut back to the Conestoga, and Ironside can't answer Brimley's page because he's got his own problems. Now gay German Judge Reinhold is dead, murdered with a shower curtain. At this point, I need to ask you guys, did you figure out who the murderer was? Like, did you think you knew who the murderer was at this point?
I still couldn't even remember who's on the ship at this point.
Yeah, it's just honestly, like, who was killed again?
The only person whose face I could remember is Michael Ironside, so I assumed if he's not the murderer, they've cast this movie wrong.
I couldn't. I tried to figure it out before the movie ended, and I what I was battling against was, are they going to do kind of like a Glass Onion kind of thing where like, oh, well, clearly it had to be him? Or is it something where it's like a Law and Order episode where like, oh, the biggest named guest star is clearly the murderer? Like, I couldn't tell where they were going.
Oh, Bobcat Goldthwaite's here. I wonder who's going to be the murderer.
Exactly. So anyway, Belky Bartakamus starts barking orders at the rest of the crew, and Ironside steps in and he says, and I'm paraphrasing here, If you want to start a pissing contest, please remember I'm the grand champion of pissing contests and even made the cover of Pissing Contest Weekly. And Belky Bartakamus backs off. The KGB guy sends a coded message to Belky Bartakamus, and in turn, he blows up one side of the spaceship, including himself.
The first interesting murder in the whole darn movie. Like, I got to go back here. This, I'll give permission. A bomb going off in space. That's how you kill somebody in a movie called Murder in Space.
Agreed.
A shower curtain. I could come up with a list of like ways that I want to see someone die in space. Murder with the shower curtain is probably not top 10.
No, well, number one is pushing somebody out of space lock.
Yes, exactly.
That's literally number one.
I feel like as a
ray
John
gun.
Peters,
ray gun is a good one too. I can, if you don't want to get too complicated, at least give me like a ray gun or a zap of some sort.
Yes.
it's a John Peters thing. He just had an idea of like, here's how I want to see people murdered, and I don't care if it's in space or in a car or on a train. Here's this is how they gonna die.
You have something like a space age food dehydrator. You shove somebody into it and turn them into a mummy. You know, you can do all kinds of cool stuff.
Bruce is over here just talking about curtain. Jason X kills.
You can do anything better than shower curtain, though.
Yeah.
By the way, how great is in Licorice Pizza? How great is the John Peters character in that?
It's
movie?
Amazing. It's so good, and what I imagine it to be exactly like. And I also imagine John Peters going, "Yeah, I'm that handsome." No, you're not. No, you are not.
Is it Bradley Cooper playing the role?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I remember you guys telling me about it.
Yeah, and he's so good in it, man. And like John Peters is just this coked out nut job that's like he's basically a force of nature that you just want to keep away from. It's so good. So the 5 remaining astronauts cram themselves into the escape ship and take off. There's some malarkey about the escape ship needing to hit the right trajectory, but you know they're going to make it, so there's no actual tension here. They land, and Brimley has everyone detained. Finally, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Yes, we wanted this space thing to get onto Earth as fast as possible. I know that's what I like in my space movies, for them to get the heck out of space.
But who is the killer? Is it Michael Ironside? Is it the gay American guy, the Italian lady, the English lady, or the old guy? I will give anyone $1,000 if they can name any character name in this movie.
They actually did give the winner, I think, $10,000 back then. So that's got to be more than $10,000 now.
Wow. But that's $10,000 Canadian.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a 10.
It's actually 5,000 American dollars.
Oh, snap. I knew there was a catch.
So
but I want to talk about the pickup line now, because there's this one. There's twice it comes up where a lady says, "He tried to seduce me. He told me he'd had a vasectomy."
Right.
Hey, baby, I've had a vasectomy. I never knew that worked in 1985 or the near future.
I was about to say, what year were vasectomies? Were they really on the pop in 85?
I wonder if they thought that's like in the future they'd be more commonplace. I don't know what.
No. Vasectomies are pretty straightforward by 1985.
Yes, I figured they're like, they're popping. We're getting good here, and like, at the same time too. I guess it's 85, so we're not super quite AIDS yet, are we?
If any of our listeners
are we in that yet?
It's not called AIDS yet.
If any of our listeners find themselves in space in the 80s and you want to pick up a lady, tell her you've had a vasectomy.
Listen, yeah, exactly. Actually, no, don't tell them that, because it doesn't work. We clearly saw that they're like, I don't even care. You can say have a vasectomy all you want. You don't get any of this.
So everyone's being detained. We're going to find out who the killer is. And at this point, I want to tell everyone that what I wanted to tell everyone, what I wish I could have said, is that we find out who the killer is, and they give an incredibly hammy Martin Short on Law and Order style performance where they say something like, "Yeah, I killed him and I'll do it again. The world owes me a living," or something along those lines, because that would be fun and satisfying. The ending might not have made much sense, but you're not watching a movie like this because you want all the pieces to fit together nicely. You know, maybe they grab somebody's gun and they go out and hail a bullet, something great. But instead, it turns out everyone was killing each other. And Michael Ironside killed gay German Judge Reinhold because all the other killers were already dead.
Now, let me tell you what my awesome wife did for me, and I'm going to share with everyone. When the movie ended, I was trying to look up a Russian word on my phone, and I kind of missed the big reveal. I was like, there's no way I'm going to go watch this again. So this is a movie you cannot find a plot summary of online, but she went to listofdeaths.fandom.com.
Wow.
And found the victims and who their murderers were from Murder in Space 1985.
Wow.
Spoiler warning to anyone listening out there. If you have not yet watched the final 15 minutes of Murder in Space, prepare.
You don't want to listen to the last 15 minutes of this podcast. I'll tell you that right now.
So these are the victims. Is it okay if I read this, or is this like really boring? Bruce reads a list. Okay. So, of course, there's Olga Dinorenko, who was suffocated by Kurt with his lucky scarf.
That's the German. That's gay German Judge Reinhold.
But it was off screen. Also, it lists Olga Dinorenko's unborn baby, who also died when Kurt killed Olga.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Now, Kurt Steiner's mother is listed as a victim. Kurt Steiner, by the way, I couldn't quit thinking about the fact that the Steiner brothers were popular wrestlers in that.
That's all I could think of when you just said that name. I'm like, okay, the Steiner brothers. There we go.
But like the German. What are you calling the German Judge Reinhold? Is that what you're calling him? Gay German Judge Reinhold. His mother is listed as a victim of murder in this movie. She died of unspecified causes prior to the film. I missed that one. Did you know what?
Oh yeah, she died because her son, her gay son, broke her heart and she died.
An unnamed Italian professor committed suicide 2 years prior to the film. I think they're lying to us. I think that listofdeaths.fandom.com knows they can put anything they want and nobody can prove them wrong, because no one is going to watch this movie a second time to play attention.
Let's see them fact check me.
Now, Guy Sterling, I love these character names.
Great name, by the way.
Guy Sterling is the one who injected himself with insulin that had been laced with cyanide by Olga.
Yeah, Hoser, the Canadian guy.
Major Kurt Steiner was strangled by Braddock with his own lucky scarf, the same lucky scarf he used to kill Olga.
That's
live by the
side.
You got to go
live by the scarf. Live by the scarf, die by the scarf.
The very same scarf he was wearing for luck.
And then Colonel Andrei Kalzinov was blown up. That's the only cool death in the whole thing. We got scarf deaths left and right, but only one exploding bomb. We got an unmentioned mother and Italian professor dying off screen. For a total, they claim 7 people died. The kill count is 7, but that's including Kurt Steiner's mother and an unnamed Italian professor.
Well, actually, what that's really referencing is the 3 people who died in the movie and the people who watched this in the theater who just offed themselves before the credits.
But it did have a surprisingly good, like the movie poster looks like it would be the good cover for like a mass market paperback in a drugstore in the 80s.
Man, it's so cool. The poster for this movie is just awesome.
Yeah, it really looks like it should be the cover of a paperback. That's awesome.
But it's just this movie.
to finish out, Michael Ironside ends up in jail, and in the final scene, Wilford Brimley calls his wife on a payphone to see if their daughter had her baby yet. She hasn't. The end.
What an ending. Is Brimley just talking on the phone, clearly just, again, they let him fly. They let him fly and say whatever he wanted to say. And then they go, and credits. That's it. That's the end of our Murder in Space movies. Wilford Brimley talking on the phone. Unreal.
How do you not end that with Wilford Brimley holding a Cabbage Patch Kid up for the camera to see?
This is my grandchild. Oh, boy. This whole thing has been in a nut house.
It'd be great. I wish I were the kind of guy who made edits on Wikipedia, because I'd say Cabbage Patch Kids were relatively unknown until they were debuted in the ending of the 1985 classic Murder in Space.
Then they sold like hotcakes.
Isn't there a TV show where it takes place on in the future or on a spaceship, and there's like murder involved with it, and it turns out that it's a guy in a coma the whole time? I think that's right. I just don't remember what it is.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
There's an Australian
in a coma in space, or is he in a coma on Earth?
on Earth, and it's like regular time. Like it's like regular, like it's just modern age.
This sounds like an ending that would really upset me.
There's an Australian film called Patrick. And there's a guy who's in a coma and like I think he
because there's
kills people.
It's a British show and there's an American remake, and they tried to do a twist on the twist, and it was even worse than what the British show had done.
We'll make it even better. Well, the only thing that can make this show better is we find out how this movie relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have another small Stallone connection this week.
Hey, listen, a connection's a connection.
Greetings, Mr. Stallone. Martin Balsam was a character actor who starred in movies like 12 Angry Men, Psycho, and All the President's Men. He's also in Murder in Space as the KGB agent. But he also did a lot of TV, and both your lives intersected when you were both on the TV show Kojak, starring Telly Savalas. Truth be told, I've never seen an episode of Kojak. I didn't even see an episode of the reboot starring Ving Rhames because I don't have time to watch shows I don't want to watch, which is also why I haven't seen Tulsa King, which is so Tulsa King lame of me since you're the patron saint of our podcast. So that's your Stallone connection this week. Character actor Martin Balsam. I hope to hear from you soon. Your pal, Sweet Shanzi from the internet.
I feel like if Stallone heard this podcast and took an interest in what we were doing, perhaps we might take an interest in the new things he was doing.
That's
all I'm saying. So? That's all I'm saying. Like we might, we might
cover Expendables 4 after all.
We've been doing this show for 8 years and nary a peep. So like we'd love to check out Tulsa King and this Expendables 4 and all these, but no interaction. So he's he clearly
both of our careers are in a little bit of a lull, so we can maybe boost each other out of it.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. A little one hand washes the other, as they say. Well, here at Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. Bruce, where does Murder in Space from 1985 fall on the Robin rating system for you?
Couple times when I was talking about this, I laughed a little bit. Famously big fan of Wilford Brimley. Famously don't hate Michael Ironsides for any reason.
No.
So you might think that I had a little bit of fun watching this, but you would be wrong. Like just because this was a situation, I had to watch it. I had to talk about it. You guys had to listen. None of us had any free will here. So I tried to make the most out of it, but I recommend you just don't watch it. I really do. I'm giving this Jason Todd, it's not so bad. It's good. It's kind of boring. It's not really space. It's not even that good of a Wilford Brimley vehicle, but I say don't watch it. Jason Todd.
John.
Yeah, it's a Jason Todd for me too. And I only have myself to blame. There is a lot more Wilford Brimley in this movie than I thought there would be.
Yeah.
Which you'd think would recommend it. But man, this movie is a slog.
How long do you think he shot on this?
Oh, geez, he was on for the whole show, I'm sure. I mean, but
it was all, probably 2 locations, both sound stages, so I bet you he could have done all of his stuff within a 5-day time on set.
Oh, I think that this is probably a 2-week shoot, man.
Yeah. If I was to guess for him, I'd say probably 2 weeks. Just based upon what we kind of see, and
you guys would certainly know better than I would.
He's got a couple different locations. Like he is like when you go to the track, he's on location there and stuff. So that took a day.
Okay, and I was counting about 3 locations on him, so I was thinking 2 days and a couple, 1 day at the track.
I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not yet, but what I've been doing is course correcting. So like I'll pick a movie that I haven't seen yet, and it'll be awful for Sean Like Spaceships. And then the next movie we see is something that I've seen before, and I like that movie. And that's the way we've been going. And we'll get to that at the end of the show. But for me, this is a Jason Todd, man.
Peeling left and right everywhere. I feel like I gotta go Jason Todd. Like it's a high Jason Todd though. Like it almost goes Stephanie Brown because like there's enough weirdness in it that's kind of like interesting to look at. Like it's a YouTube swipe through, Go through, get a little bit of vibe, kind of keep going. And again, I really think that you could watch the last 20 minutes of this because they do basically show you the movie again and kind of point out all the, here's the X, Y, and Z to all this crap. It doesn't really add up to anything, but you do get a more concise version of the film that way.
Well, I mean, it's because they were showing that last bit a month later at a time when nobody had DVR streaming, anything like that. So unless you were, the rare person whose Wilford Brimley related memory was excellent like mine, you probably needed that refresher.
Yeah. It's I can't recommend it. So it's we're looking at Jason Todd's all around here. So swing and a miss. Sweet Chauncey might love spaceships, but we like them. We like them well enough ourselves here, and we're going to be doing that again next week. So what do we got for the final in Sweet Chauncey loves spaceships, or like spaceships month? Excuse me.
It's a movie I've seen before. It's this little movie called Vast of Night, and it is a great little tiny movie. There's no stars in it. It's easy to find. It's streaming on both Amazon and on Freevee. And I watched it during COVID, and it's one of these movies where you can see how good a movie can look and feel when you are a talented person, and it comes through on screen when you're watching this thing. And it's just so it's such a good hang, this movie. I don't want to tell you that it's going to be your favorite movie, but it's definitely worth your time.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to it. It sounds like it's kind of an indie thing.
Yeah.
The Vast of Night.
Vast of Night, available on Amazon and Freebie. That'll do it for this week. Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I say just, keep checking your local police blotters. Anything can happen.
Sean?
The Slammer.
The Slammer.
We have another podcast called Ahsoka 30 Questions, where each week we ask 30 questions of the latest episode of Ahsoka on Disney Plus. And we're about to record that in a few moments. So please check that out.
A lot of good stuff in there. That is it, everybody. Join us next week when we Sweet Chauncey like Spaceship Month continues, and our next movie is The Vast of Night from 2019. Remember to vote on Patreon for next month for Sweet Chauncey Kovacs from the internet. Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Porters. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Eve.